So I wanted to go over the assignment that you're going to be working on today. The assignment is going to be a mixture of ionic, molecular, and acid formulas that you're given, and you are going to have to name them. Have your colored periodic table out, and also, of course, your ion list. But have that out so that way that can help you with recognizing, hey, is this a metal or a nonmetal? So let's just real quick review. Remember, an ionic compound is going to be between a cation and an anion, or a metal and a nonmetal. And then you use your ion list to help you with the name. Remember, you always put the cation or the positive ion first, and then the negative ion or the anion second. Let's jump over here to molecular. So, with molecular compounds, remember they're not ionic compounds and you do not want to use the ion list. How you know you're working with molecular compounds is that they have two non-metals. Sometimes you may have a semi-metal thrown in there, but that's not the same as a metal for an ionic compound. This is when you're going to want to use those prefixes mono, di, tri, and so on. And remember the element, the second element in the name, particularly you end with "ide." Okay. And remember, sometimes you may drop the A to shorten your pentoxide. Okay. And remember, if it's the first part of the name, the element that's the first word in the name, you do not use the mono prefix, but you would use di up through deca. How you know you're working with an acid is that you have hydrogen, that's the first part of your formula. So, yes, hydrogen is a nonmetal. However, that's how you know that you're working with an acid, because you're working actually with the hydrogen ion. So you'd have a hydrogen ion and then a negative or an ion. Okay. So, for instance, if you're looking at the last part of the name and it ends in "ide," okay, so you have hydrogen and it ends in "ide," you're going to have hydro put in the front. You change the IDE to the IC, and then you add acid. Okay. Um, if you're working with a polyatomic anion and it ends in eights, do not put hydro in the front. You change the ATS to IC and then put acid. If you're working with a negative ion or an anion and it ends in "ite," you drop the ITE and you change it to OUS and then acid. For sulfur, you would add a UR, and for phosphorus, you add an OR. So that's just part of the spelling, okay? Like what we had practiced in class. So let's go on and work a few of these out together. The first thing you want to do is in this blank here, you want to identify if it's ionic, molecular, or an acid, and just put A, M, or I. So we have NaF. So this is ionic because sodium is a metal and then fluoride is a nonmetal. So we're going to go on and put in an I. So now I'm going to use my ion list and I'm going to look up Na is sodium, and then F is fluoride. And make sure that you spell fluoride correct. Fluoride always has the flu. Okay. Let's take a look at our next one here. We have FeCl3. So, what type of compound is it? It's ionic. So, we're going to put an I because we know iron is a metal and chloride or chlorine is a nonmetal. And we know that Fe is iron, but we need to know, is it iron 2 or is it iron 3? So look at your anion. Your anion is going to determine it. Chloride has a -1 charge, so that means that this has to be iron 3. We'll do 3 uppercase I's for our Roman numeral 3, and then Cl is chloride. Let's take a look at our next compound here. We have CO2. So this is molecular because we have two nonmetals. So we'll type in an M. And if you need to pause the video as you're working on your worksheet, please do so. And we have one carbon, so we're going to just put carbon, no monocarbon. And then since we have two of the oxygen, we'll say dioxide. Okay, so let's drop down here to number 5. And number 5 is HF. This is an acid because we start with the hydrogen ion. So we're going to put in an A here. And we're going to look at the last part of our acid formula to help us determine, well, how do we name it? So we have F is fluoride. So since it ends in the IDE, we're going to put hydro in the front. Oops. And then what does F stand for? Fluoride. So we're going to change the IDE to IC. So we'll have fluoric and then acid. Let's drop down and take a look at number 6 here. So number 6 is SF4. So we know this is molecular because we have two nonmetals. And we have one S, so we will not put mono in the front. So we'll just put sulfur. And then we have 4 of the F's, so that's tetrafluoride. Let's take a look at number 7. So number 7 is HC2H3O2. So this is an acid because we're starting with the hydrogen ion. So we'll put an A there. Go to your ion list and see what is C2H3O2. What's that anion called? That anion is acetate. So we're going to go to our box up here, and since 8 ends with it, our 8 is the ending of our anion. We're going to change 8 to IC. So we'll have acetic acid. Okay, so instead of acetate, we change the ATE to IC to acetic acid. Think about this one. What is its common name? What do we call that one whenever you name it? Let's take a look at this compound here. NH3, we know that NH3 is going to be molecular because it's two nonmetals put together. So I'll put an M there. And this is one of them that we studied that we will use the common name for ammonia. Not ammonium, the polyatomic ion, but ammonia. So I also made a note to take a look at number 14. So we have Na2O. This is going to be ionic because it's a cation and an anion, or a metal and a nonmetal. If you're not sure, again, find sodium on the periodic table and look at how we color coded it. Oops, I put that in the wrong spot. Here we go. So we'll go ionic. And so we're going to say sodium oxide. Okay, so remember, when we cross and drop, sodium has a +1 charge, oxygen has a -2 charge, so that's why it's Na2O. And I'm not putting any dyes in here or anything like that because it's not molecular, okay? I also have wanted to look at this formula here, number 26, N2O5. So N2O5, we're working with two nonmetals. So this is going to be molecular. So put an M there for molecular. And we have two nitrogen. So we're going to say dinitrogen. And we're not going to change the ending to IDE. We leave it nitrogen. And then we have 5 of the oxygen. So we're going to say penta is 5, but we're dropping the A, oxide. I want to take a look at one more. We have HNO3. This is a sign that we're working with an acid because of the hydrogen ion that we're working with. So we're going to put an A in our first box here for acid. And we got to look at the NO3. The anion names our acid. So NO3 is nitrate. So if it ends in ATS, we change the ATS to IC. So we'll go on and put nitrate, but we're dropping the ATE and we're changing the ATE to IC and adding acid. Now, if it was HNO3, okay, so our formula here is HNO3, but let's just say our formula is HNO2. So again, I'm working with an acid, okay, because I'm starting with the hydrogen ion. And this time, NO2 stands for nitrite. So the name for this one would be, instead of nitrite, we change the ITE to OUS. So it's nitrous acid. Okay, so I just wanted to practice one with the ite. Okay, so if you could go on and finish the worksheet and identifying what it is, and then using the help up here to write the name. Remember, with the transition elements, don't forget your Roman numerals.